I'd rather react to this bullshit. What the fuck is going on in Europe, by the way? Can somebody tell me what is going on in Europe? We got two changes. Allow cookies? Let's decline them. Sources. T1 Esports Academy's Midlaner Pobe set to join Fnatic in the LEC, replacing Humanoid. Pobe played 18 games in the LCK during summer 2023 as Faker's temporary replacement following an arm injury. A seismic shift is underway at Fnatic. Oh, wait, so it's going to be more than just this. According to Sheep Esports sources, I mean, I assume that's what that means. Sources, Yun Pobe Sungwon has reached a verbal agreement with the Black and Orange. The mid laner of T1 Esports Academy, the LCKCL roster of the world's most iconic League of Legends organization, is set to replace Merrick Humanoid Brazda, a core member of both the LEC and Fnatic. A two-time LEC champion in 2021 with Mad Lions, the Czech player joined the team in 2022 as a star signing alongside Ivan Razorek Martin. Ooh, the homies, bro. I can't believe they played 3.5 years together, bro. 3.5 years is insane for two players that didn't work together from the first minute that they played together. To end the team's title drought, which dates back to 2018. How did they do? Let's see if they tell us in the article. But over more than 3 years, an eternity in esports, Humanoid failed to deliver on that mission, and Fnatic's dry spell persisted. The British team endured repeated frustrations, especially throughout 2024, culminating in 4 consecutive losses in finals to rivals G2 Esports. Although often outshone by Rasmus Cap's Winter, Humanoid consistently remained among the top-tier mid laners in Europe. This status preserved the organization's confidence in him in the absence of clearly superior alternatives. Debatable. I've been a Humanoid hater. I always felt like Humanoid kind of underperformed compared to other European mids at different points throughout his time in Europe, and then he would go internationally and play like pretty well into somebody who's considered really good, but then still get like shat on 3-0, and then people would say, look, he is actually really good. If he was able to lose, but not by much, to this really great player, that must mean that he's going to be better than the other players in Europe. So there's always these like weird narratives with Humanoid. While Humanoid was undeniably a benchmark in his role, he was frequently criticized for his inability to rise to the occasion and shoulder responsibility in high pressure moments. I agree with this, but it's weird that in people's eyes, if you're a mega underdog and you play internationally, just because it's internationally and you play against like Chovy or Faker or one of these like great players, if you play against those players and you lose, but you don't get completely slapped, that's somehow higher pressure for, or people, it's perceived as higher pressure for a player than when you're playing domestically in a final. Like, it's so much harder, it's so much more pressure when you're playing a must-win game that you have expectations on you for, than to just play a game where you're the mega underdog. I mean, we saw it even today with GAM. Like, GAM looked so much better versus BLG because they were just playing with pretty much like no amount of restraint. And when you actually have expectations on you to win, it's a lot harder to really play to like the maximum level of your abilities. We see it all the time throughout esports. Like, if a team is eliminated, you'll see a lot of times like 9th place, 10th place teams in league. They'll be horrible. They'll lose. And then once they're eliminated, they'll play against one of the top teams in the league and they'll just like beat them in a best of 3 or beat them in a best of 5 or best of 1 or whatever the situation is. You see this all the time because of the fact that it's so much easier to play with no pressure. So this is true that he didn't deliver in a lot of the high pressure moments, but the narrative at the time, if you remember what people would say, people referred to Humanoid as clutch because of the fact that he had like a pretty good 2022 Worlds, even though they didn't make it out of group stage. And like 2024 MSI, when they got 3-0'd by Gen.G, he played decently there. Yeah, like those series ended up carrying a lot of weight for Humanoid's reputation. Tensions were further exacerbated by the player's sentiments or statements where he cited a lack of motivation in the LEC to explain some of his underwhelming performances, yet still struggled to elevate his play during the international events. Nice. So he's like one of those players that has ego, but he won't like explain why he has ego, and you just like sit there and you're like, I mean, I guess he's good. SE rating, number 2 mid, number 18 in LEC. I don't know what that is. What is SE rating? I don't think I've ever heard this term before in my life. What would that even be? 65 out of 100? I don't even know what that would be. CS per minute. KDA vision score number, is that like Sheep Esports rating? Because if that's what that shit is, like I don't know, that's all I can come up with for SE, like Sheep Esports rating. Percentage kill participation percentage, wow, he had really low. The start of 2025 season, however, disputed the status quo. The arrival of highly promising mid laners capable of rivaling humanoids such as Vladi and Jojopian at Movistar Koi further highlighted Fnatic's reluctance to initiate major changes. As the year progressed, criticism intensified. Despite a strong start to the spring split, Humanoid once again faded during the playoffs. After finishing 4th in the spring standings, Fnatic finally chose to shake things up. In Faker's footsteps, the surprise not only lies in Humanoid's departure, but also in the identity of his successor. While several ERL players might have deserved promotion to the LEC, such as Amon, I don't know who this guy is, Call Me, okay, I've heard of Call Me. Fnatic opted to recruit Pobe. At just 19 years old, the young South Korean player has spent his entire career within the T1 system, though a promotion to the main roster was impossible given the presence of legend Lee Faker Song-hyok. Pobe did receive the opportunity to compete in LCK when the guy was hurt. Okay, cool. Which they lost almost every single game, and he got mega flame for, even though he wasn't really the reason they were losing. Thrown to a struggling team, deprived of its iconic captain, Pobe had little opportunity to shine in Korea's top league, receiving 4 wins and 14 losses. More broadly, he has yet to establish himself as a standout in LCKCL and has not claimed any titles in the second tier league. In 2024, playing alongside Fnatic legend Martin Reckless Larson, he placed 9th in spring and 4th in summer. Fnatic's decision may therefore seem surprising, though evaluating LCKCL talent against European standards remains a complex task. With this move, the Black and Orange can reconnect. They gotta stop calling them the Black and Orange, or just call them Fnatic, man. They don't deserve to have a name like the Black and Orange after how they played recently. Reconnect with their South Korean roots, which were temporarily set aside at the end of last year following the departure of Noah and Jun. That bot lane pairing had been a relatively successful gamble despite falling short of titles. Pobe will be expected to surpass that level, and his education with the T1 system will be a valuable asset. I mean, maybe. I don't know. So here is the lineup. So it's going to be Oscar, Razork, Pobe, Upset, and Mickey. I don't really know much about Pobe. I haven't watched him play that much recently. But it's strange to me because he's one of the players that has, in the community's eyes, played so bad that people will come to me just to tell me that this guy is playing bad in LCKCL. There's almost like no one else who I can think of who's in LCKCL who players feel viewers feel the need to run to my stream and tell me, holy shit, this guy is fucking horrible. So I don't know if he's actually that bad, if the community just hates him for some reason. Maybe he was really bad when he played with Reckless, and Reckless is really popular, so Reckless fans hate him or something. I don't know what the deal is there, but I've always heard just bad things about Pobe. So I have no idea how well he'll actually play. But he wasn't one of the first options for like LCK CL mid laners. You know, at the end of last year, we had multiple ones come to North America. They're doing pretty well. We'll see how he does, I guess, with Fnatic's lineup, but I just don't see how this changes anything that they need to work on. Because when I think of the type of player, like the archetype of player that Razork needs, I feel like Razork needs somebody who is stable that can like lead the game from a mid lane position. And it doesn't feel like, or like just a laning position, I should say. It doesn't feel like Pobe does that. And it doesn't feel like Oscar is, or it doesn't feel like Pobe because he's 19 years old and, you know, speaking a second language. I don't feel like he'll be able to do that. And I don't think Oscar is the type of player that wants to lead a game. I think Oscar kind of wants to just like exist, get strong, and then show up to team fights and just do his job. He's not somebody who's trying to like lead you to a victory the way that other top laners are. Like, for example, one of the biggest strengths of Broken Blade, people are going to meme this because he played fucking horrible yesterday, but one of BB's biggest strengths is that when BB is strong in a game, he knows how to like win the game through his strength in the game. He's able to lead a game and carry a game through like communication and stuff like that. And it feels like Fnatic's roster, when you don't have a solo laner that's willing to do that, it's very difficult. And, you know, for Cloud9, since we have 2 imports, this was a huge thing that we had to work on as a team, and it's a huge thing that we're still working on and we're getting better at over time, is how do you get like when Thanatos is really strong, how do we play in a way that's going to allow him to carry the game? And I think we got better at that over time. And as you saw, like at the beginning, he would get strong and sometimes we wouldn't win, but now when Thanatos is strong, we normally win the game. We're trying to get the same thing out of Loki, that like the players that are strong, they're able to communicate what they need and what's going to like break the enemy team's nexus. So I just wonder if like this is going to actually work out. It just seems like really uninspiring when you look at the lineup, because I just feel like they'll still be the same team. Maybe Pobe will be individually better than Humanoid was, but I don't see how this team is going to be better than the other teams in Europe that actually have structure. So is what it is. That's my Pobe take, but it's super fucking random. Like, it's so random. And it is like such a memeable move because Pobe is known as like he has a bunch of nicknames. Like people call him the Ghost, right? Like so you have the Goat who's Faker, and then replacing him was the Ghost, which was the greatest of some time instead of like the greatest of all time, obviously. So he's just like memed on pretty heavily, and Fnatic is a very memed on team in general. So it's like kind of crazy that they're taking a player like Pobe, because this is I mean, if it doesn't work out, it's so fun for the community to mock a team like Fnatic because of the way they play. So we will see how that fucking shit goes.